My name's Igor
Yeah,
Kondrashov. I am the engagement manager at Digital Science for Figshare and for Symplectic Elements. Obviously in this case, I'm working with the consortium that is present here today in order to provide training on Figshare. But equally, if you have questions relating to engagement, then I can help with so training needs or chasing down issues that have got stuck with other parts of digital science, please get in touch with me. Susan, I'm sure you'll be able to share my details with everybody on the call.
yeah.
And I can help with respect of chasing those down or advising on, training needs or anything else relating to kind of getting value out of the product that is not a support question. Obviously, we have a separate team for support, and they're very quick at picking up the tickets that you submit and answering those. But for anything that is engagement related, I am your primary point of contact, so please do feel free to reach out. And as I mentioned, I am supporting Figshare, but I also support Symplectic Elements. So if you're using that digital science product at your institution as well, then I can help with that too. So the
Thanks.
purpose, sorry,
I'm
uh,
just saying thank you.
no, no worries. So the purpose of today's call really is for me to take you through the Figshare for Institutions interface, and I'm going to cover three different areas. I'm going to cover the workflow from the point of view of a researcher who's uploading something to Figshare. I'm going to cover it from the point of view of a reviewer who gets those submitted items to review in Figshare and to either approve or deny them. And then finally, I will look at the administration section of Figshare and kind of talk about some global settings and administering the application generally. Um, I will. We should have enough time to finish by the end of the hour, hopefully. And obviously, if you have any questions, please do let me know, and I'll try my best to help. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to confirm with you that you can actually see it.
I'm
Okay.
still seeing
How to
you.
Zoom que my guy.
Okay. So hopefully you can see me
Yes,
sharing my screen.
yes, we can see it now. Thanks, Igor.
Perfect. So what I'm going to be using today is actually a demo instance of Figshare because I want to create and delete and affect items it's a sandbox essentially. So I don't want to do this with real content. So I'm going to be using a demo instance to show you most of my guidance. But as a very quick point of comparison, here's one for RMIT University, which is a real university, and obviously it looks exactly the same as what I'm going to be demonstrating to you today. It's just that the statistics are a little different, and a few of the other settings are a little different. But if we get started, so when you log in to Figshare as a member of faculty, as somebody who wants to submit an item, basically this is the sort of view that you'll see. You'll have a kind of an image representing your university in the middle. You'll have the name of the system. So again, here's RMIT's example. Here's the name of their repository. Here's the name of the university. It's got branding related to the university in question. And your individual Figshare instances will be quite similar. And below that, we then have the separation of the items that have been created so far according to different facets, I guess I should say. So you'll see here they are split into categories, groups, and there is a search function. And then you have a long list of all of the items that have been submitted so far. So in this case, these are the items in our demo instance. And similarly, if I show you the real repository of a real client, so these are real theses and journal contributions and other items that have been submitted by faculty at RMIT University. And any one of them you can click into. You can see that there is a preview available for visitors, and typically it's a question of managing that. So this is the view of all items that have been submitted so far. And obviously, in the case of a real university, there's 86,000 items. There could be more, there could be less, depending on how many you have in your instances. In our demo instance, there's just a handful because we use it for the for demonstrations essentially. The best thing to do, first of all, is to show you how a researcher would upload an item that they wanted to create. So true to the name, it has a link at the top here that asks you to upload. When you select that, you'll see that a few things are prompted from the member of faculty straight away. First of all, it asks you to assign it to a group. So your Figshare instances will have a group structure. The group structure typically represents the organizational structure at your university. So perhaps these are departments, perhaps these are schools or colleges. Some notion of hierarchical organizational structure that you have at your university, and they will be grouped. They will be arranged as groups in your Figshare instance. And so here you're prompted to decide when you submit the item that you're about to submit, when you upload your full text, which group is it going to live in the context of your Figshare repository. And so, for example, you might say, well, I want to choose business school. So that's the first classification that it does. Then it asks you to specify a type. And what we're referring to here are publication types. So essentially here, we are specifying, have we specified the group that we want the item to live in? We are also specifying the publication type that it represents. And you have a choice here. Now, my list of choices in this dropdown may be different to the one that you see in yours. It really depends on how your repository was set up at the point of implementation. And different universities make different choices as to how many publication types there are. So you may very well see fewer, or you may very well see more options that I have on my screen here. But for the sake of argument, I'm going to choose poster. And then, having classified which group and publication type these belong to, I then have a choice of either uploading individual files, or I can upload it on a folder level. I can also even upload zipped folders. So if you upload zipped folders or folders in general, they will be shown on the item with the folder structure within them. So you'll actually see the files that it contains within, and you'll be able to review those. So for the sake of argument, I'm going to use a single file, but as I say, equally, you can use folders or zip folders as well. And I'm going to choose something from my desktop. And I'm going to find a Figshare information pack here, for example. And it's going to prompt me to work with that. So before we go any further, very quick a little call out here. There's an option to import from connected integrations. And there's basically two integrations that are possible with this instance. And it's either harvesting items from ORCID directly, or it's harvesting items from an FTP folder that you have connected. So if we're not using those integrations and we are uploading a file directly, as I say, you just browse to the files, you find them on your machine, and you upload them. And then it gives you a list of the files that you've added. If there were multiple items here, it would give you a list of them. Instead, it's just finding the one PDF that I've just selected. Now, once I've categorized it and chosen the full text files that I'm attaching to the record that I'm about to create, I continue to metadata, and that takes me into a view where I can work with the record itself. So it's already has the file that I've uploaded, or at least it's in the process of uploading it. You can see here it's uploading the file. It gives it an MD5 hash, so it always knows that it's unique, and if you try to upload a duplicate file, it will know that that is the case. And equally, you get the capability to manage these files. So if you had multiple of these, you'd be able to kind of work with them in bulk, and you could delete the selected ones, or you could remove individual ones. Similarly, here you can either download or delete them. And if you had multiple, you could restore them, you could reorder them, drag and drop so that they show in a different order when you come to look at the item itself. So there's some additional basic file management capabilities built in here. So just because you've uploaded one file and maybe you've forgotten another one, you could always go to manage files and add an additional one, or you could remove some of the ones that are maybe not necessary anymore, and leave the ones behind that you want to work with. Now, similarly, you have a control here to to basically make files unavailable for downloading. So if you do that, you basically disable people's capabilities to download a copy of the full text that you have attached to the item. So it'll create the record, it'll create the metadata, it'll attach the full text file that you're um, adding to the item in question. But normally, most Figshare resources are downloadable, so you can find the text file and download it to your machine. This checkbox means that it'll basically be disabled for this specific item if that's something that you want to do. And once you've administered the files that you want to use, you then move on to the portion where you define the metadata for the item. So obviously here you want to be as useful and descriptive as possible. So I'm going to call this the Figshare information pack. That's the title, and you have some basic formatting controls here, so you can bold and italicize things and change the size of the font. You've already specified which group you want this to go in. So again, the groups are your institutional hierarchical structure. In this case, this is going to be uploaded to the business school group, but if you got that wrong and if you wanted to change it, you have a button to do so here, and you can quickly reallocate that to something else. And similarly with the type, I've chosen poster. You can change the item type here to one of these other choices. As I say, your particular Figshare instances may very well have more publication types to choose from. And you can quickly reclassify things here. If you're not sure, there's an information button here, which, where are we? Oh, sorry, that's the authors. Here, so you can learn more about item types. It'll take you to the Figshare support pages, and it'll tell you exactly what we mean by a given publication types, and when we use a term like figure or media, what it is exactly that we're referring to. So you can always reclassify things. You'll see here that because I'm creating this in this Figshare instance, it's already populated me as the author, and it'll do so for the member of faculty that's trying to upload that in your respective Figshare instances. Where they are a real user in the system, it'll have this green/teal box that it adds them in. So you can tell that they are actual user profiles that exist on this particular instance of Figshare. And you can also add other users on the system. So if I search for Mary Farrell, for example, there she is. I can add another user. And if there are authors that you want to add to the item that do not exist in the Figshare instance that you're working with, you can add them as well. So obviously these two users here are real users on the system. They have been created in this Figshare instance already, and that's why they show up as green. But you might have an author that isn't part of the Figshare instance at all, and you still want to mention him as an author. So what you can do is start typing, and it'll give you suggestions. Now, if these are not people that you were looking for, maybe you're looking for somebody who's not in this list and you want to add them, you can simply click on Add Author Details, and it will give you the options to basically fill things in. And you'll notice here some of these items have a little red asterisk next to them. This means that these are mandatory fields and you have to fill them in. So you can put in the first name, last name, the email, and the ORCID, and then you can add that author. So if I add that author, you can see here that they show differently. So we know that this is not a real user profile in the system. Rather, this is an author that I've added manually. So that's how you specify the authors. And as I say, either they're real users that are already available in the instance, or you create them on the fly. And once you've categorized the authors, it asks you to categorize the actual item in terms of a taxonomy. Now, when Figshare uses categories, the default labeling scheme or tagging scheme that it uses is the Fields of Research 2020 version, I believe. And what you're trying to do here is the item that you're about to create, you're trying to categorize it according to which labels in the taxonomy it's relevant to. So, For example, you could drill down into economics, and maybe you drill down into econometrics, and maybe you'll choose economic models and forecasting or something like that. So in this case, it allows you to do that categorization and apply as many categories as you want to the item itself. And then when it's created and it's saved and published, if I go back to our real example, our real Figshare instance of a real university, you can see here one of the facets that you can view this data in is categories. So if I click on that, it then enables me to look at these tags. So biological sciences or biomedical clinical sciences or chemical sciences or what have you, and then commerce, and I can click into one of them and see all of the items associated with that. So that's similar, very similar to what we're doing here. We're selecting a category or multiple, and then those categories, those labels or tags, I mean the same thing by all of these terms. Labels and tags are, some people call them one, some people call them the other, but basically you're applying a taxonomy to the item that you're about to create. Just going to check. Yes, can the author be someone outside the institution? That's a question in the chat, and the answer to that is yes. So as I sort of demonstrated, this person here, I've just created them on the fly. And again, I'll just show that again very quickly. If they're not on the list, you start typing, you start searching for them. If they don't exist at the institution, you can still fill in their details and add the author, and then they get shown as this black box rather than this green box, which means that this is an external author that's not part of the Figshare instance, and these are actual user profiles on the Figshare instance. So yes, you can add external authors as well. So yes, those are categories, and they are used to facet and display the item within a particular categorization, within a particular facet of what you have on your institutional repository. And then the next field it asks you to fill in is keywords. So again, these are labels, but they're not an official label scheme like Fields of Research 2020. They are just free form, and there's quite a few of them. So again, if I start typing, economics, for example, it gives me all of the keywords that have ever been applied on Figshare.com. So this is like a huge crowdsourced list of keywords. Now, you could choose one of these if you feel that it represents the item that you're about to create, or you could ignore it completely. And for example, I want to tag this as econometrics. So I'm just going to, I know we have this option here, but let's say I wanted to ignore it. If I just click on return, oh, of course, okay. Let me think of something else. I don't know, bioengineering, just on its own, and it will add those keywords to this item. And obviously, you can add as many as you want. So either you reuse the ones that have been created by the wider Figshare.com community already, or you simply type in your own ones. You press enter after each keyword that you want to add, and it applies them to the item in question. And I'll show you how this all looks once it's all published. So we filled in the keywords, then there's the description, which is fairly self-explanatory, and you've got a very rich formatting menu down here, so you can do all sorts of things like bullet points and links and paragraphs and what have you, so you can make it really helpful and descriptive. You can link it to funding. So put in a funder reference here, or maybe essentially put in the grant number, the name of the grant or the funder body that's giving you this funding, and you can link it to that. And you can add multiple items under funding, and they will appear on the item. There's related materials. Now, this is an interesting call out because you're creating a particular item. So if I go back to my real example, and if I choose this one here, for example. So this is a real item that somebody's created. Now, this view itself shows you the full text file and the metadata associated with it. When we talk about adding related materials, we're basically creating this box here. And essentially, it's a way of linking out to useful resources within your Figshare instance that are relevant to the item that we're creating. So if you were creating this item here, you can see here that this is actually published in this particular item, and if you follow that link, it'll take you to to this particular journal. So what you can do here when adding related materials is add the identifier in question, and there are many different types of identifiers you can use. If you have a look at, I'm just going to put in a URL here, just so it stops bothering me. But I'll show you the actual choice that you have. So these are the identifier types. As you can see, you can add DOIs, you can add ISSNs, ISBNs, URLs, PubMed IDs. So there's quite a choice. And essentially, in this case, I'm going to add a simple URL. Obviously, this is for example purposes. In your case, you'd put something meaningful, but I'm adding a related identifier. I'm going to give it a title. I'm going to say link to Google. And then you can specify the relationship type. So what is this related material, and how relevant is it to the item that you're creating? And again, you have quite a few choices here. So it's either describes it, or is a version of, or is a variant of, or what have you. You can see there's a very rich list of relationships that you can attach to this and describe how the item that you're creating is related to other resources in your Figshare repository. So I'm going to choose supplement to, and I'm going to tick show in link out area. So we'll see what it looks like when I actually create this item. So if I add that material, I get it shown here, and I can add multiple. So you can have various links available, not just the one. I'll stick to the one for now, and you can see it's been created there. Then we have there's one more mandatory required field that you have to fill in, which is the license that you want to apply to the item that you're about to create. And you get a choice of all the popular license types that are available here. And you simply select the one that you want to use. And we have a explanation of what each license stands for. So if your users wanted to find out more about them, they could follow this link, and it would take them through the various licenses, and they could either go to the license deed as well and understand what kind of features it incorporates, what kind of legal basis does it allow for the user who wants to reuse this content. So that's very well documented for those users that need to read up on it. And then everything below license is a custom metadata field. So everything until that license field, and including the license field, it's the standard data structure that you have in any Figshare instance, starting with item title and going through all of the ones that I've demonstrated and getting all the way to license. Everything after license is custom. So in your particular Figshare instances, you might see that you have either one or two or quite a few additional custom metadata fields, and they are basically containers for any additional metadata that you want to create. I'll also show you at the end of the call how to add these on a global level or a group level. So you'll have the capability to expand the data structure for either all items or a specific subset of items if you wanted to do so. In this case, there are 3 custom metadata fields, so sustainable development goals, and a few date fields, which somebody's configured in this demo instance that I'm using for our demonstration today. So that's how you add the metadata itself. And then similar to the metadata, once you've completed adding that, here is where you specify embargoes and restricted access. So there's a control here that if you click on embargoes and restricted access, it gives you the capability to configure that. Now, either you can choose a preset period, which is like a period that's going to be calculated from the day you publish this, up to and including permanent embargo, or you can specify the end date, and there's a calendar control there. You can also choose whether the embargoes apply to files or the entire content, and it'll reflect that accordingly. And obviously, people won't be able to access the item unless either they request access to it or until the date expires for the embargo, and then they can see the content itself. So let's say I place an embargo up until the end of July. I'm going to say files an embargo. You can specify a reason, and this way somebody who who tries to go to this particular item and view it, they'll just get a message to say this item's under embargo. Please come back at the end of July when the embargo expires, which is what I've specified here. So it's always useful to add a reason in this box here. And you can also add the capability for people to request access to files. So if you switch that on, again, you can give some guidance as to what they should include in their request. And this will give an additional control to those visiting the item to be able to click on a particular embargoed item and say, actually, I need access to this because I'm either from your university or from another university, and I'm working on a similar issue, and can I please have access to this embargoed item? And they could look at that then. Now, you've got a control up here, which I should mention, which defines who can access the embargoed content. So either nobody, or you can get very granular with these controls, and you can say only the users of your institution. So this is the name of our demo instance, but in your case, it might be the name of your university. And you can even get more granular than that. So either you make it accessible to everybody, this embargoed item accessible to everybody in the Figshare instance who is logged in, or you can specify a subgroup, and you can say, I only want the Institute of Education within this Figshare instance to have access to. And similar to that, you can give access to people with a specific IP range, or it's an admin embargo. So as you can see, there's quite a granular set of controls available for that to be the case. And I'm just going to cancel that. And so I'm just going to set the date. I'm going to place it on the files only. In fact, I won't place an embargo, because if I do, then I can't show you the real item. So perhaps I'll just I'll show you how to do the embargoes, and then I'll show you the item as it is. So we'll cancel the embargo. We won't add it. Now, that's how you add embargoes and restrict access to specific people. Sorry, there seems to be a question. How important is file name? Does it affect discoverability? It's a very good question. I would say file name, I'd say the title is important, because obviously when people search in the UI, they will be matching on title amongst other things. So if I go back to this RMIT example here, we can see that we have the ability to search. So for example, I might search for employment, and it will match the items that have that in the title. So I would say, yeah, it's certainly worthwhile doing that. So are these customized entry fields included free of charge? So if you're referring to the custom metadata fields, then yes, you can configure those at any point in your Figshare instance. I'll show you the administration section at the end of the demonstration. And basically, sorry. Oh, I see. It's not the title, but the file name. I honestly don't know, but I can check for you. The title is definitely important in the search results, but I don't know if the search algorithm also looks at the file name itself. But I will come back to you on that. But yes, the custom metadata fields, you can configure those in your instances. You have the capability to change the data structure at any time. So we are still creating this item. We specified the embargo if we wanted to add an embargo. We can also share this item with a private link. So basically, this is just a way of generating a link to share with somebody who maybe doesn't have access to the Figshare instance, and it generates a URL that you can share by email or by social media or by Messenger. And you can also set a expiry date for it as well. So you might only make it available for a week or two, or something. And similarly, once you've created it and added a private link, um, you um, similarly, once you've created a private link, if you then decide that you want to disable it and cut access to the item, you simply come back to this control and click on Disable Private Link, and it gets rid of it. You have the options of editing the timeline. So there are obviously various dates that can apply to the item that you're creating, whether it's the online publication date or the acceptance date or the publication date, and you have the ability to configure them accordingly. So first online date, for example, and you can set that here. And then maybe the acceptance date is different, and you can set that accordingly. And maybe the publication date is different still, and you can configure that as you see fit. And then apply changes, and it will include the timeline. You can also add a custom thumbnail, which is what you see when it comes to viewing results like this one. So this here could be a custom thumbnail. It could show an image of your choice instead of the preview that's generated by Figshare by default. So we have created the item, we have added a file, a full text file to it. We will now submit it for review. And it's saying something, it's saying publication required for publication is missing. Oh yes, the description. So I'm just going to put something in description. Submit for review. It'll tell you who the admins are, who the people are with review capability on your instance who will be reviewing this. So click on submit for review, and then it'll say your item is currently pending review. So you've gone through the trouble of categorizing it to groups, to categories, you've added your full text, you've filled in your metadata, you have linked it to funding maybe, you have specified the timeline of important dates, such as publication dates and acceptance dates and so on. Maybe you applied an embargo and you applied a license, and now this item shows as under review. So now if I go back to browse, in fact, it might be under browse, would be under my content. We will see that this is what I've just created here, and it says under review. And in fact, the status of the item is going to be present in a lot of places. So it'll tell you that this one's under review because I've just submitted it a minute ago. But here are some ones that are either in draft stage. So it tells you that it's a draft. It's not quite published yet. It's not quite in review yet either. Somebody's still in the process of creating these. This one's embargoed, and this one's published. So you can see at a glance your items, if you're looking at your individual submissions, or if you're an administrator and you're looking at a system-wide level, you can see what things are categorized as. And of course, you have filters up here that will enable you to drill down into a particular subset. So for example, you can just look at the published items only, and it will show you those. And similarly, you can filter by publication type. So I just want to see the data sets, and it will filter those as well. So you have a multitude of filters available to use, and you can reset them. You have a search box, and of course, in this case, I only have 7 entries. In your case, you'll probably have hundreds. So it's helpful to have a search box available there. But this is under review, and it's now down to the person who reviews to actually look at that item. And this is where we come to the next part of the UI that I need to walk you through, and how to get to that particular section. So every user will have this profile button. I have it as well, but the basic users, the members of faculty, they'll have links to the profile, the account settings, notifications, and the integrations. They will not have everything from administration through to batch management. That is more for the people with appropriate permissions to do so. So most users will have profile, account settings, notifications, integrations, and logout. But if you have the right privileges, you'll also have some of these additional controls. And in this case, if I was a reviewer, which I am in this case, I have my queue of review requests. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to show me the items that have been submitted. So this is the one I've created just now, and it shows me some top-level metadata. It shows which group it was deposited in, who it was assigned to, who the depositor is, and then in this case, how many files it has attached. So I just attached the one, but there could be a multitude. If there's any comments, and it's possible to have a comment thread on the item to talk about it and between the reviewer and the submitter, and basically they can have a conversation back and forth to shape the submission into something that's really good. And then how many iterations have happened for this review. So this is the first iteration. It's just been submitted, and it's not something that has come back again and again for additional amendments and changes. So yes, to answer the question, yes, I will share the recording. Yes, you can share it with anybody who you think would benefit. No problem at all. So we are in the review requests view, as I said, and we're now looking at this as a reviewer. And we are going to look at the item that I've just placed under review so we can see what that looks like. So if I jump into this one, it's actually showing me what I've created a few minutes ago. So if I was a member of faculty, I would look at this and I could review the attached file, or files plural. So in this case, there's one, but if there was multiple, I could step through them one by one and decide whether this is the right content, the right full text files to be attaching to this item. I could see the description that I've added. So I've just added a simple description of description, not very helpful, but we saw an example here of a fully populated item with a real description and real funding and real related materials and so on. So that's what we're reviewing here. And similarly, you can review whether this is appropriate. This is the related materials that I created when I was making the record. Here's my link to Google. Here are the fields of research categories that I've categorized this against. And here's the keyword that I added and the license. So everything shows up that is necessary that I've configured on the previous page as the submitter. Now, here, right now it's unassigned, but I could assign it to myself. So then I can make decisions about it. That could be myself, or I could assign it to somebody else if you went to delegate it to another party. Let me give it to myself. So now I'm the reviewer, and now I have the controls to either approve or decline it. So depending on the quality of it and whether I wanted the member of faculty to improve their description, which is a bit sparse, or whether I thought their related materials were irrelevant or something else, I could perhaps push it back to them. So I could decline it, and it would go back to them. But similarly, I would need to specify what's going wrong. So you can also put in a comment here and notify the depositor. So I could say something like, please improve your description. Oops, I can't type when people are looking. Please improve your description, and then tick the box. It would notify the depositor. It would send them an email straight away with my comments as to what they need to do, and then I would probably decline it if I wanted to kind of push it back to them so that they have another attempt at making the item that they're trying to make and maybe improve the things that I asked them to do. And then similarly, if I did think it was good enough, I could approve it by clicking this button. Or as an admin, I can edit the item directly. So I have this edit button here. It would take me to the item in question. And except in this case, I'm not the user, the member of faculty submitting it. In this case, I'm the administrator looking at the item and making the changes as I see fit. So if you think it's too much trouble to push it back to the user and all it needs is another author being added or another keyword or a better description, if you want to do that yourself, you could do that by using this control and then saving and approving. But if I was happy with the item that I've created, I would click on approve. As an optional message, you can approve and publish. And the request is successfully approved, and then it will appear on your Figshare instance, and you'll be able to see it when you look at the content. So if I now go back here, Let me see. So this is what I've just created, the Figshare information pack, created today. And if I click into this, then I get all of the content that I've created so far. So we've covered the item creation workflow from the researcher's point of view and the review workflow from the reviewer's point of view. And hopefully you can see that the review is fairly straightforward. You check the item, you determine whether it's good enough for the purpose that it's intended for, and then you either approve or deny that review, and then it gets published or it goes back to the submitter, to the depositor, to make some changes to it. So final thing I want to show you today is the admin section, which if I go back to the home page, a few quick things here. You can navigate between your content, and whether that's the items themselves, whether that's projects or collections. Basically, if we have a look at items, it will show you everything that belongs to you. And again, you have filters on the side, and you can click into specific items, and because they're the things that you've created so far. But if we want to look at the admin side of things, behind this control, as I mentioned, these areas here are only available to those with the appropriate permissions. We've already had a look at review requests. That's what we've just done a few minutes ago. Let's have a look at administration next, because this gives you some of the global settings that I described earlier. And very quickly, you can see everything here is arranged into tabs. So I mentioned that when your instances are implemented by Figshare, when they're first installed and configured for you, the implementation managers will have worked with you to create an institutional group structure, and this is where you'll find it. So in this case, this is the top level node, the kind of the group at the very top, and these are the child nodes underneath it. These are the sort of the branches coming off of it into subgroups, and you can see how many groups there are, how many users, projects, and what their storage quota is like, and how much of these have been, how much of it has been used. And similarly here, you can either click into a specific group or you can create a subgroup. So creating a subgroup is true to the name. If I wanted to have another branch coming off a business school that was an even smaller subset, that's when I'd create a subgroup, or I could delete this. And configuring the group basically means that you're editing the settings for the business school specifically at the group level. Yes. So to answer the question about how researchers can use Figshare to store their research data and share the private data with co-authors, so that at the very beginning of the call, obviously, I showed you how to upload items. And these can be individual files or they can be whole folders of files. And essentially, once you've uploaded it, you have the option to embargo it if you wanted to make it not accessible for everybody else on the same instance. So if you remember those embargo settings, you had various controls. You can make it permanently embargoed, for example, and you can only share the private link with the people you want to share it with, or you can make sure that you have a request workflow. So if I go back to the examples that we had, where is it? Yep. So we have, let's go back to the creation. Right, bear with me a second. So if I edit this one here, you could share it with a private link. And if obviously I'd have to create a completely new one. So let me find one that is not published yet. So this draft one here. So you could add restricted access. You could say who gets access to it and whether it's members of a specific subgroup, as I demonstrated before. You could say only people with that are members of, I don't know, the Institute of Education have access to this particular item, and only the members of that group would be able to access it. Or if you're not doing it at a group level, you can simply share it with a private link and make sure they go through through the request access to files workflow. So you can allow people to request access to embargoed files, and then they're protected from everybody except the person going through the request access workflow when they then get access to them at the end of that process. There's a question about creating projects and work on the same project. So yes, so similarly here, let's go back to what I was showing with group management. So if we go into the business school, for example, what you can define here are settings related to the business school, and some of them are self-explanatory, so title, description, URL, etc. You can make it public or private. You can choose whether it's hidden from the embargo and restricted access section. You can enable or disable the review process for it, and you can administer the quotas, the storage quotas for it. So how much storage an individual user has when they first join the group, how much storage a project has, and where it starts, and what the roles are. So you can configure the roles either at the institutional level across the whole instance, or you can apply roles at the group level as well. And it's very straightforward to do that. You simply add a new role, you put in a name, and you specify which role they will have. And that's it, and that's done. You will have chosen when your instances were implemented a way of creating users, and either that will have been a HR feed that comes in from somewhere upstream into your Elements instance, Figshare instance, or it may be the case that you've chosen to create user accounts on first login, and that's also possible. So if there is mapping between the group and the HR feed, this is where it would be specified. And down here is where you would create custom metadata fields. Now, in this case, it inherits the STG custom field and the this test name custom field from the kind of the global settings. And so that's why those are inherited metadata fields. And then somebody for this particular group has created this custom metadata field called publication date selector. So this publication date selector field will only appear for items in the business school group when they're created. And it's sort of a custom data structure specifically for the group in question. And obviously you'd go through and create the items here. But similarly, you could create projects in here. So you create the fields to appear on the projects that you create. And if I go back one level, let me just discard those changes. Obviously here this is how you would administer the group structure. Now, the other thing you can administer in this section is users, and you can download reports for either individual users or all of them as a whole, and it'll show you lots of additional statistics for these. And similarly here, you can impersonate users or download their reports. You can search for them. So this is all kind of fairly self-explanatory. It's a page to work with users. Similarly, we have storage that you define across the entire instance. And some of this is going to be dedicated to user items that are submitted, and some of this is dedicated to the group projects. And you can amend that here accordingly and work with that. We've already had a quick delve into the Figshare roles. Now, the ones that we saw earlier were relevant to the business school only. And in this case, you're defining them for the whole Figshare instance, regardless of which group somebody's in. So this is kind of like a system-wide role for the people that we see listed here. This is where you control the associations between the upstream HR feed that's coming in and creating and managing users and the fields that it uses to do so. So again, here we have the ability to create those custom metadata fields. And if you ever get into a situation where something's been published, but you want to unpublish it, essentially, there is a page for that. You'd need to enter the DOI for the item in question here, search for it, make the selection, and after a few minutes, it would be unpublished from your public-facing repository. There is what we call a tombstone page that gets displayed when it's unpublished, so that somebody who ends up on that particular page because they want to they might have had an old link that somebody shared with them. They'll see a message to say that this item no longer exists. It's been unpublished. So it is graceful enough to guide them to say the resource you're looking for is no longer there. So similar in terms of multiple DOIs, again, you could simply put in a list here, separate them by commas or semicolons, and or spaces, in fact, and it would unpublish all of them in bulk. Finally, we have the global settings. So we have the description that you see here, that appears on the landing page. So in RMIT's example, this little information icon here, that's what's governed by this control. So if you put in a description at the global level, it's this little barely visible information link that talks about what the repository is and what kind of content it tries to store. It allows you to hide and unhide the embargo section, show or not show the social media buttons that allow people to share it easily via the social media of their choice. And then you have some options here for managing profiles as well. And finally, this is a particularly useful function. You have enhanced access controls. So basically, if you want to put in a disclaimer when somebody is accessing a particular resource, a particular item, you can enable this and put in a small disclaimer to say by continuing to this item, you are accepting these terms, and this is where you'd put that disclaimer. So that is basically the administration section. And last but not least, there's statistics, which are pre-built in the sense that it's not interactive in the sense where you can choose your own. You can choose some things, but it's not. In many ways you get what Figshare has built for you so far, and Figshare has tried to be helpful in showing you different perspectives on the same data. So whether they are geographical graphs or whether they're bar graphs to sort of show you how the data is split across the system, and basically you get some top level statistics and dashboards to understand how your repository is organized, and the number of depositors, the total number of deposits, the storage used, the uploads by publication type, and so on. But a lot of this is kind of pre-built, so you can change the time windows and you can refresh it to show the very latest information, but you can't create them on the fly. You can't sort of create your own view by selecting a few controls, at least not yet. But that's something that could be possible by contacting support and kind of exploring the options there. And finally, we have batch management, which is a way of affecting metadata at scale. So effectively, the workflow would be that you choose which set or subset of the data you want to download. So for example, you want to download all item metadata from a group or all groups, and you would export the metadata you want into a CSV file. You would then edit the CSV file and change the items you wanted to change, or add rows to create new items in bulk. And then once you've amended the kind of the schema, you download the schema file with content in it already. You update it as you see fit. You add new rows as you see fit. You save it again with your changes, and then once that you have that saved file, you basically upload it here, and it pushes the changes into Figshare in bulk. And you can even select it to sort of publish them without going through a review stage, and then start the metadata upload, and it will process the file that you've given it, and then bulk create items or bulk update various metadata where appropriate. And that is everything I have to show you today. I think I've managed to answer most people's questions. If something comes up, please let me know. Suzanne, I guess you could route those questions to me, and I'll be happy to answer them.
No problem.
Was that useful at all? Does that help?
Yes, I think it does. I don't know how many of the team that joined today. There are a few new faces to this process, so I think that was really very helpful to those. And I think for the old familiar faces that have been working with Figshare for quite some time, there's some new things to think about and maybe explore some of the things that we haven't used before. We're in a position now where we want to make sure that we're making use of the products that we subscribe to the maximum benefit of the institution. So I believe that we can now go back and look at what we've been doing and see if we've been doing it with the full options and the full benefit and the full reach that we are hoping to achieve. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. And one final thing I'll mention is that you may have seen emails coming from Figshare about the item type based metadata change that's happening
Yes.
in July, I believe it is. So that's when we get the first release that has the beginnings of that functionality, the first draft of that functionality. But that's going to be a little bit of a work in progress for the rest of this year. So from September onwards, we will be getting in touch with your organizations to talk about migrating from the old data structure that you have in your instances to the new item type based metadata structure. And we are already triaging and categorizing everybody based on complexity of their data structure. So we are taking a look at who would be straightforward to migrate, who would actually be quite complicated to migrate, and we are arranging internal resources in order to support that. So September onwards, we should be able to have a more informed conversation about how soon we can organize a migration for your institutions and how long it's likely to take and what kind of input we'll need from you and so on. But that's very much kind of a very big change that's coming in the next few months that will.
Okay, we're ready for you because we've gone through a few migrations. We've migrated library systems, we've migrated repositories, we've migrated a few other little things here and there. So we're up there with you on the migration.
Perfect. Sounds good. So yeah, so as soon as we're ready to do that, and there is a project team that I'm part of internally who's doing the whole item type based metadata piece, and there's a lot of moving parts. As soon as we've got that initial release out and the resources are in place, we'll start contacting you individually and talking through what the next steps are.
Okay, that sounds like a bit of fun.
It'll take a little bit of effort, yes, absolutely, but it's for the better. So hopefully we'll by the end of the year or maybe even early next year, most clients will be migrated and finished. That's certainly our hope that by the early next year we'll be able to move everybody. We'll actually have to see if that happens in practice, but that's our intention and that's what we'd like to achieve. This is recorded. And it's also going to be transcribed. It is being transcribed already. So I will share the recording, Suzanne, with you on Asana. The links and the kind of the passwords, and also the general summary of what happened and what was discussed.
That sounds good. Thank you so much.
No worries at all. And thank you for listening to me for an hour. Thank you for your great questions. As I say, if there are any engagement queries that I can help with, please do reach out. If there are more support queries, please route them to support. But if it's to do with training or chasing something down internally, then I can help with that.
Thank you. That's great. I'm sure in particular, the systems guys will collect the questions and comments from each institution with their ERM teams and their institutional repositories and research teams, and then we will be able to send them to you as they pop up.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
Excellent.
everybody. Hope you have a good day.
Thank you very much, Igor.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all. Bye bye.